Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
Who I don't think you've been in on any of the tabletop gaming videos.
No, I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to be able to speak to this because I don't usually play tabletop games.
But you do know Matt Mercer.
I do know Matt Mercer, yes.
Yes, so yeah, we actually had a panel with Mr. Mercer probably, God, 8
It was a long time ago. Yeah, he was very nice.
He was a very nice guy. So I don't want this video to come across as being us busting on Matt Mercer.
Do you know what was funny? Squeaking, we told you before about people not believing him.
Yeah.
When he was like, oh yeah, my parents played Cards Against Humanity with the guy who did the voice of McCree. I don't think anybody believed him.
Yeah, they don't. I think they're like, I feel bad for Squid King because we were like doing all this crazy stuff and we live
People thought he was lying.
Live in a pretty small town.
He was that kid that, that makes up stuff all the time for attention, and he was telling the truth. But yes, we played Cards Against Humanity with Matt Mercer and Nostalgia Critic and his brother.
Yeah. I think they cheated.
Oh, yeah.
They got all the good cards.
I mean, it was awfully interesting how every good card they had. Anyway,
that's what happens when you
low people on the totem pole.
Yeah, right. When you're just the webcomic people,
yeah,
that's what happens.
He was very nice, though.
Matt was very nice. He was a pretty solid guy. So I don't want this to come across as being, taking a dump on Matt Mercer or anything. But it's interesting that we have outlets like ScreenRant saying things that I've actually been saying on our channel that, when tabletop kind of came off the rails and you had a lot of people getting weirdly political with tabletop gaming was about the time that, Critical Role, Geek and Sundry all started to sort of glamorize tabletop gaming and bring their Hollywood friends into it.
Well, as I say, anytime Hollywood and Twitter gets involved in anything of geekdom, it becomes about how they're going to ruin it for inclusion and diversity.
Yeah.
Is that what this is about? I haven't read the article, but if I was a betting woman.
Well, more of this article is about how people who get into Dungeons and Dragons because of shows like Critical Role, and I think Will Wheaton had one too, they're sorely disappointing at how boring it actually can be in real life.
Because they make it look fun. Then maybe just watch their videos instead of playing it yourself. I don't know. I mean,
I think what happened was we had a lot of non-players get into Dungeons and Dragons because they watch videos like this, and then they're like, "Oh, this is hard. Let's change the rules." Or
yeah, that could be. It's not inclusive enough because I don't see myself represented in every character.
Right.
Because you can't like anything unless it represents you. Yeah, it's just dumb, frankly.
So they're actually calling it, this is what gets me, they're actually calling it the Mercer Effect.
How is it all his fault? There are other people on that show.
There are other people on the show, and it didn't, to be fair, I'm going to be fair here, and it's not just...
I know he's the dungeon master on the show, but still.
To be fair, things didn't kind of come off the rails with the tabletop gaming until, again, more Hollywood people got involved. Now, Matt Mercer, I do think he's a legit, D&D fan.
Which is really funny because they had to bring him in out the back of the stage so that the girls wouldn't keep throwing themselves at him and everything else. Now, when I was a kid in high school or whatever, if you played Dungeons and Dragons, you were considered to be kind of a dork. But now it doesn't matter. Girls will just throw yourself at you. So, now is a good time if you,
There you go.
Dungeon Master for the win.
So I was a closet DM in high school. Everybody knew about, so
at least own it. If you're gonna do it, at least own it.
So I was comfortable talking about comic book collecting because back in the early 90s, like comics were big. So I could, I collect comic books. Oh, comic books are big. Okay, that was cool. And you had guys like, Rob Liefeld and Todd McFarlane that were like, like dude bros working in comics, so it wasn't, weird or anything. But, when it came to Dungeons and Dragons, even though I was a dungeon master, I had all the books. I had tons of books, and I was the one who came up with all the campaigns. I was like, yeah, but Dungeons and Dragons, I don't really play. That's for nerds.
They've even done that with like the TV shows and stuff, where that one kid comes in secretly to play, but he's like the football kid and stuff. Well,
that happened to us. We actually had a kid.
Yeah, you talked about that.
Our group, he was a soccer player. He was like a big wig soccer player, and he used to come in.
And at school, he acted like he didn't know you.
Kinda, yeah.
It's like every '80s movie ever, in real life.
Anyway, known colloquially, I didn't even know this is a thing, as the Mercer Effect, the phenomenon harming a lot of Dungeons and Dragons parties, gets its name from famed dungeon master and voice actor Matt Mercer. Mercer runs games for the show Critical Role, started by Geek and Sundry. They're their own thing now, thank God, because Geek and Sundry is having layoffs because nobody gives a shit about Hollywood nerds anymore, where he and the rest of the cast play Dungeons and Dragons for live audiences. Critical Role has seen a lot of success since its start over 5 years ago. D&D show averages nearly 40,000 views a stream. Broke Kickstarter records by raising over $11 million for an anime. That's
I did know about
high.
that.
And now has an animated series. It's going to be on Prime Video based on the first campaign. They announced their own nonprofit organization. So that's kind of cool. They're trying to do some good, right? But all this success is not without consequence, as the Mercer Effect is something affecting many DMs and parties in the D&D community.
Oh my God.
The effect in question is what
we got that community again. So you know what that means.
We're going to go there.
Does it go there? Okay.
I think it's going there. We're going to talk about some of the other stuff going on with D&D. I've been very critical of the new rule books coming out that want to make orcs,
they're just pandering
people too. The effect in question is what happens when fans of Critical Role decide to try and play Dungeons & Dragons after learning from the show's example. Because the new players are only familiar with the tabletop RPG at the peak level of entertainment Critical Role offers, some expect for their experience to mirror the show's quality. It becomes such a problem that Mercer himself has addressed it. It's kind of like watching porn.
You mean you're never as good as the porn stars?
Right, because they've had a lot of practice.
Okay, that's your analogy?
And they have
that's what you went with.
And they have good lighting.
Are you saying I'm never as good as the porn stars?
No, you're better than porn. I was talking about myself, of course. Wait, that's not really. Never mind.
My mom watches these.
Yeah.
Love you, Mom.
Anyway, how Critical Role's Dungeons & Dragons streams affect the D&D community. Uh-oh, here we go, the community. After finding out that most games out there use graph paper and markers for maps instead of 3D terrains, and that their Dungeon Master and party do not meet the level of talent of a dedicated group of professionals, new players tend to leave their games disappointed. Just like after you watch porn.
Realize that you can't reenact that.
You can't reenact it.
You mean you don't get to walk into a store and suddenly get serviced in a way that is not what they usually service at a store?
Depends on the store.
Reality, as my expectations are subverted. Anyway.
Is this Vegas? It depends. The high quality of Critical Role is giving fans new to the tabletop RPG community unrealistic expectations when it comes to the average game of D&D. The solution to the Mercer Effect has come from both sides. On the player side, comparing a D&D home game to an episode of Critical Role is like comparing hanging out with friends to the show Friends.
Your analogy's better.
I think it's more like porn. It's not.
Okay. It's like comparing having an apartment in New York with a bunch of people to the show Friends. I think that's a better comparison.
Yeah,
the reality of a New York apartment with a bunch of roommates and the Friends New York apartment.
How much does the Friends apartment cost? Because there's no way that Monica or Phoebe are paying that rent.
Well, Smelly Cat pays a lot. The song
royalties,
yeah,
because that's got to be a $10,000-$12,000 a month apartment.
I'm just
even
saying,
in the 90s.
I would say hang out with your friends in an apartment in New York compared to the one in the show would be a better example using the Friends example. Anyway, continue.
Where are all the cockroaches? Where's all the crazy neighbors?
Playing parts in the game.
It's not a fair expectation to put the pressure of the level of quality of Critical Role cast and Mercer perform on that of everyone else who plays the game as a hobby. On the game master side, all that's needed is an abundant amount of patience. Simply explain that Critical Role is not a fair representation of how D&D.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is like.
What? This is a disclaimer.
I'm just like, okay. Maybe it's because I grew up in a time where it wasn't like, participation trophies and everything was, had to be magical for your children. But, y'all kind of knew it wasn't the same thing as like, as a Hollywood show wasn't going to be the same thing as you and your friends playing it out in the playground. I mean, obviously, you have a disclaimer. This is like, just so you know, when you use our shampoo, it's not like the commercial. Remember that one with the girl in the elevator? And she's like, yes. And then they had to disclaim that, just when you use our shampoo, it doesn't mean that it's going to make you happy in that way.
This is kind of sad that they have to.
They have to make an article telling people.
Yeah.
That, just so you know, when you play this at home, it's not going to be at the level of Critical Role. Because, clearly when you're looking at your little box full of stuff, it's not the same thing.
They need to.
I can't even.
They need to put this in the 6th edition handbook when
reality
it comes out.
is real, people.
It'd be like, just for the record, this isn't going to be Critical Role. You're probably going to suck. You're probably going to screw things up. You're probably, when you first start, not going to have like an endless supply of painted miniatures and crap.
That they're giving to as a show.
To show for
when you
Wizards of
open
the
the box, you're not going to turn into Matt Mercer, and all your friends aren't going to look like these people. Love the diversity there, by the way. And all your friends are going to look like the.
Did you say what I think you said?
I did. Suddenly, one of your friends is going to have a blue mohawk, and another one's going to be a redhead, with an awesome outfit. That's not going to happen when you open the damn box. It's just going to be you and your friends with a box. You gotta use your imagination to make the box go. Like cats do, or small children. It's like when you're a kid, you had to pretend it was something.
Make your game go like cats.
I'm just like, you see how excited cats get when there's a box? Who knows what the hell they're imagining in that box? But they're not looking at it thinking it's just a box. They had to make it something in their mind. When you were a kid, they gave you crayons in a box to entertain yourself for a few hours, and you have a plane or a car or something cool, and you go to space in your box.
In the first edition of D&D, they actually said explicitly in the handbook that D&D was just a game of let's pretend with rules and dice. And somehow...
I don't understand people thought it was something else.
It's kind of like sea monkeys, too.
I don't understand
they don't actually look like that.
How they can have an expectation that they're going to be Matt Mercer and crew if they play this game. I don't get it. You have to make it. It's what you make of it. I've watched, Kneon play with Squid King and Pinky Boo, and I'm not really into it. And Pinky Boo really isn't into it
She's
either.
not into it at
They
all.
make her. And
she slept through the one campaign.
She tries to make it as funny as she can. Like she goes kind of eat the horse and different things.
She had an elf that ate the horse.
Flipping hilarious because she's trying to entertain herself and keep herself engaged. But it's what you make of it. I mean, we have some pretty good laughs because they come up with some hilarious stuff. But it's what you make of it. I think that's pretty much established.
Oh God, we should do our own tabletop gaming streams. Now we got the studio, and just be like, here's the reality versus expectation. Be like, expectation's Critical Role, reality is Clownfish TV muddling through D&D.
Right. Well, no, then they're turning into a TV show, so that's even higher. It's putting higher expectations on it. You mean my campaign's going to be exciting as this TV show because it's based on their campaign that was highly edited and fine-tuned?
Oh my God.
I just can't. I can't even. That the people would think that they're gonna. I can't.
All right. So this is kind of my unified theory of everything. Again, I'm not blaming Matt Mercer specifically.
It's not his fault. People's ridiculous expectations.
But I think what happened was because of Critical Role, and it's starting to attract all these Hollywood people, and it sort of became this thing, like, and we saw it with Will Wheaton and his tabletop thing he had going on or whatever, and Geek and Sundry, and all the Hollywood nerds kind of came in, and they attracted a certain audience. It was very different from the traditional D&D audience. And here we are now where we're talking about, racial stereotypes in tabletop games and junk.
Yeah, for characters that aren't actually human.
Right. So we're basically D&D.
Everything's coded something.
Oh God. So D&D is basically for LA and Portland at this point, and a lot of gamers have moved on to other game systems. I've been pretty critical of some of the idiotic decisions they've been making, but Critical Role is not going to be critical because I think they're actually sponsored by Wizards of the Coast. I could be wrong about that, but
I honestly don't know.
I think they send them free stuff, because that's how it works. So they're not going to be like, yeah, this is shit. We're not doing that. We're gonna play by the rules. But yeah, so this is going back to the changes they were going to make to the game, which I've been I thought it was just freaking stupid. That Dungeons & Dragons officially removes negative racial ability score modifiers from its rules. So, there are some awful racial traits, including the orcs have a menacing trait with the primal intuition, which grants players proficiency in some of these other things. So the updated rules reflect previous comments by the Dungeons & Dragons team that promise better representation and a movement toward giving the player characters individualism as opposed to forcing them to fit within cultural stereotypes within the game's lore.
The game's lore. Wait. Isn't that kind of the point? I mean, call me crazy, but I'm going to play a game. It's going to have rules, and it's going to be about the story of the game. So now they're basically saying we're throwing that all out the window because some people were pissed about it on Twitter. So what's the point? Why you can play anything at that point? Why does it have to be this? If the lore means nothing, what difference does it make?
What's the point of having rules if you're not going to follow any rules? You know, and orcs it's a stupid conversation. Basically, everybody's like, I want to have a special OC, just like Critical Role.
I don't know. It's not even that. It's
No,
like, I
it's
want to
not.
have a special OC, just like me.
Just like me. I'm
Every
unique.
checkbox, and I deserve. It's like that. It's Sunshine video. Remember the Sunshine?
Oh,
You
God,
haven't seen
yeah.
the Sunshine video about the privilege points.
The privilege
You need to
points,
go find that. That's what it reminds me of. I need a character that I get all kinds of points for because I have all these checkboxes and that's not fair. And I want to play one of these characters that I think are coded something else, just so I can say that they're minorities when they were just characters that they weren't real humans. So
It's like shut up and dwarf. You're a dwarf fighter. Dwarfs fight. That's what they do. Just shut up and roll.
that's right.
It's like-
Everybody had the reason. There's a reason why each character had strengths and weaknesses. It would make the game go.
You would have to figure out how to work within the rules of the game.
So now we just change the rules so we always win.
Yes, pretty much.
How childish is that? These are the same people who have to be told that when you get the box, you're not Matt Mercer and it's not going to be as exciting.
So
So there you go.
here's the thing, because I'm old. Back in the day, when I first started playing D&D, right, like old school D&D, basic D&D, how your character was determined was basically what you rolled. Like
It was all this like just whatever happened. It was
yeah, it was pretty much like you would roll your stats.
luck of the draw.
And you would look at it and be like, oh, okay, with these stats, I can be a fighter. These stats, I can be. And that was it. Now, nicer, kinder DMs would be like, oh, I'll let you take some points from maybe your intelligence and put them to strength if you really want to be a fighter instead, can do that. But back in the day, it was like you're rolling, and if you get like a freaking, 2 for your intelligence, guess what? You're not going to be a wizard. Tough shit. Life sucks. Life's not
Maybe
fair.
next time you roll better.
Deal with it. And a lot of times, too, if you got killed in the game, again, depended on the dungeon master, because some dungeon masters were nicer than others. But a lot of people, it's like, you get killed, you're dead. And if you can't figure out how to resurrect a character, guess what? Your character's dead.
Right, and that's just
Re-roll and you start over.
because it was like you had to actually think. You had to have some critical thinking skills. You had to be able to adapt. You had to be able to roll with the punches and come find a new way around things. Think outside the box. All of which seems to be problematic for people of today and Twitter. Enough so that they have to put disclaimers that when you get to play your game, you're not Critical Role Matt Mercer and crew. Because people are so too dumb to understand that, apparently. I can't even.
I can't even either. And this is why tabletop gaming, comics, anime, all this stuff is sort of like...
It's hard.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a generational thing or what's going on. And I don't think it's generational, because there's some young people that are pretty badass, but people just... God, they're so soft.
I want to be a warrior.
We're all warriors. We're all warriors. No, you're not. You're not a warrior. You rolled a thief. Deal with it. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up.
Yep.
I just thought this is funny that ScreenRant's even calling out, like, just so you know, kids, D&D might be disappointing. Okay, if you've been watching the fake D&D on Critical Role, it might disappoint you. And orcs are racist.
Real life might be disappointing if you're just watching, these shows on TV.
Oh my God. All right, so we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. We'll talk later.
Bye.